Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dr. Emmett Emery Sr. You Better Stand Your Watch, Leader and Leadership Podcast. I miss you guys. I think the whole month of June, I just celebrated year anniversary, and I played 3 particular podcasts so you guys can look at. And I said, so when I come back, I got to come back with a topic that's going to penetrate the workforce. And I'm going to use some individuals whose profession is in, I say medical field, and even though one does diagnosis, one does medication. One can kill you, one can heal you. So we're going to get into that today. We're going to talk about how important is leaders' health in the workplace, in the company. Not so much the physical health. We already know about that. If they're not physically ready, they can't participate in the workforce, in the workplace. We're going to be talking more about the intellectual, about the social, about even the spiritual part of the individual, as we talk about the health of the organization towards the employees. Now, I want you guys to take a look at my book. I know I talked about it, but I didn't really get too much advertising. The name of the book is called Leaders Become Leadership, and it has 2 volumes to it. Volume 1 is written in English, and Volume 2 is written in Spanish. So I encourage you guys to go get that book. And while you're getting that book, before you get that book, while you think about that book, subscribe to me. Now, you know I had to ask you that, to subscribe to me. Now, you're going to hear about this again before we go off the air. But first, I want to introduce you to 2 of my guests. Dr. Fredrick, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Dr. Fredrick Williams. I am the clinic director for Kingdom Medical Group here in Tampa Bay, Florida. We had locations throughout Florida at one point, from Clearwater to Miami, but currently we're focusing here in the Florida area, and then we'll be looking into Georgia as well.
Next desk, Doctor. I guess I'm speaking in existence. Mr. Pledge, introduce yourself to my audience.
Hey, what's going on? Courtney Pledge here, senior pharmaceutical sales specialist that specializes in respiratory medications, asthma, and COPD. Thanks for having me on the show today.
I value my health. And at this point in time in my life, I don't really feel that I am ready to leave this earth. So with that said, I'm going to ask players to introduce himself again, but this time mention his family. And I'm going to do the same thing with Dr. Berry. So I don't want his wife to hurt me or anything. So we're going to go through this again. We rewind it. Okay, Pledge.
Father of 2 boys that are 11 and 9. I'll just say Ivy League tuition, which is a fancy way of shining both of them out. So what's up to my boys and what's up to my wife as well.
There we go. Dr. Fred.
Okay, I don't have a wife. I did in the past, but no longer. I have 3 kids, 9, 10, 15. They're all very active and entrepreneurial, so I'm very excited about that.
Good. Now we're on the right feet. We got 4 toes down. We got that 5th one not sitting down yet. It's one other thing they need to mention. We're going to start with Dr. Williams first. What fraternity are you part of?
This is fraternity that started at the university I attended, which is Indiana University, Bloomington, Indiana. The greatest, in my humble opinion, fraternity in the world is Kappa Alpha Psi.
Okay, all right, come on, Courtney.
I, too, am a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
And the fraternity was so good, they had to name it twice, didn't they?
So nice they had to name it twice.
Ooh, I knew pie.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful thing.
All right. Now, okay, all right. I've been gone for a while. I had to do it. Woo, feel good to be back.
I'm in good company here.
Uh-oh. Now, let's get into the topic. How important is leaders' health in the company, in the workplace? Not the health of the leaders overseeing the workplace. How important is it leadership having healthy workplace? The World Health Organization, WHO, states that occupational health is an area of work in public health to promote and maintain highest degree of physical, mental, and social well-being of workers in all occupations. Its objectives are the maintenance and promotion of workers' health and working capacity, the improvement of working conditions and the working environment to become conducive to safety and health, the development of work organization and working cultures that should reflect essential value systems adopted by the undertaking concern, participation, and voluntary quality-related management practices to improve occupational safety and health. Companies that work on their health were found not only to achieve measurable improvements in their organizational well-being, but to also demonstrate tangible performance gains in as little as 6 to 12 months. This holds true for companies across sectors and regain as well as in contexts ranging from turnarounds to good to great initiations. Mr. Pledge, please explain your understanding of companies that take concrete actions to improve their health and deliver impressive results.
I think it's all tied into each other. A healthy employee is a productive employee. And like you mentioned, there's several different aspects of an employee's health. Like you say, the organizational structure, making sure that employee feels safe at work, making sure that, they feel confident enough to fully do the job that they're called to do, healthy physically enough to show up every day and not just show up, but be healthy and be in a good space to where they can carry out their work. And the last aspect of it is a mental health, which a lot of companies have started to pay attention to in the last 2 years, is making sure that their employees are not only physically strong, but mentally sharp as well. So that way, whatever problems they're dealing with, that they're able to properly deal with those problems so they can focus on the job at hand. And the more that they're able to focus and the physical, the physical health, the organizational health, as well as the mental health, the more productive that an employee is going to be. And the more productive an employee is going to be, the more profitable the company is. And also one thing that you kind of have to pay attention to is that a lot of companies can mitigate a lot of losses when it comes to paying for healthcare by being proactive in building strong employees on the front end and not waiting till something happens to where, those hospitalizations and things like that start to build up and start to add extra costs to the employer.
Well, not so much the hospital cost, but the workers' comp that's connected to it. Now, who dictates the culture and the tone for that healthy workplace?
Like you said, the leaders at the top, they kind of set the tone. And strong leaders are able to deliver the message and make sure that they have the processes in place to deliver through on what they want to carry out throughout the company. And then also, having strong HR teams in place kind of make sure that the right policies and procedures are in place as well. So starts at the top with the leadership, and then it rolls through to the managers, and then carries out through the employees.
Good, Dr. Williams.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So my perspective is going to be a little bit different from Mr. Pledge. I work in solo practice. So up until just a few weeks ago, traveling abroad, my idea of health and workplace safety and living in general changed, right? I visited Colombia, and the typical person is working 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts, which I said, wow, okay. Then, I'm nosy, so how much does that equal? And I did the calculations from Colombian peso to American dollar. For the month, that's why I remember the month, what they would make for 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts, was $547.
For the month?
For the month.
Wow.
The month, right? So
that's American dollars.
American dollars, right?
Wow.
So it humbled me tremendously, and it put everything in perspective, right? America, when we first started with the Industrial Revolution, a lot of things had to happen for us to be where we are with the 40-hour shifts. And
so did you
breaks.
open up a practice in Colombia?
Not yet. It wouldn't be financially responsible. It wouldn't be. Not that type of business.
They'll work a whole month just to
right. I'll be eating coconuts every day. I don't know. But early days, there were these plants like in Pennsylvania, New York, where people worked 70, 80 hours, and there was some things that happened, like at the Hershey plant, where fires happened and people rioted, and so these things happened, and then people they went on strike, and this is how we got to the day where we have 40-hour shifts and labor laws and all this sort of jazz. But there's a lot of places that still operate that same way.
Yes, because I work for Walmart and in the logistic fields and supply chain management, so to speak. And they have what they call peak season. And during that time of peak season, you might be working a normal 40-hour week prior to, but once peak season it takes place, because it sometimes might double the production. So you can't continue to be on a 40-hour schedule with double work.
No.
So you got to increase the work hours. So you might be working 60, 70 hours a week at the time.
Correct. And I've done that in my college days. One summer I came home and I worked for a temporary service, which had me doing picking and packing in the warehouse on the west side of Indianapolis, which turned out to be Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, right? And we worked 8-hour shifts. But like you mentioned, when the drug season peaked, guess what? Mandatory 10 hours, mandatory 12 hours.
Which drug peak season you talking about?
Well,
You talking about the one in the neighborhood?
No.
Or you talking about the one
the one with the white jackets. The white coats, the legal ones, right? But the interesting thing about that was when I worked there, we had a pharmacy on campus, guys. You won't believe this. We had a pharmacy on campus where we can buy the drugs, like your Dayquil, your NyQuil, and all this jazz. The only stipulation was
over the counter.
Over the counter. We couldn't resell it. The NyQuil that costs $20, $30 at the drugstore, we can buy for $1.50. So if we could buy it for that price, imagine the price it costs to produce it. So they're making billions and millions of dollars. So it's a huge industry. We can fight, we can march around, but they control politics. They control a lot of things that happen. When you have the money, you really have the
Now,
power.
you hit the tip of a topic that might irritate Mr. Pledge right now, because he's a senior director or
absolutely.
in pharmaceutical.
Yeah,
What do you feel about that?
Healthcare as a whole has, the cost of everything has gone up, and it's almost like if somebody says, I'm only going to pay you a percentage of what you charge to keep somewhat of a profit, all you're going to do is raise your price.
Right.
So that way you can get, paid fully what you intended to get paid for in the first place. So I think there would need to be an overhaul of the entire healthcare system and how people get paid and what people pay in order to kind of regulate everything health-wise across the board, and not just in particular pharmaceuticals.
Yeah,
But you do prescriptions, right?
I don't, but some other doctors. We have nurses, we have other doctors.
Okay.
A great example of this, one patient came in last week. He's from a small island, Anguilla, I believe it is, Anguilla. And so I fix him, he fixed his wife. He's like, Doc, in his very thick accent, hey, man, you got to talk to my father, man. He got a lot of back pain. So he calls his dad on FaceTime, and he's standing with his shirt off, and I'm looking. I'm like, all right, this is different. I'm like, okay, you look pretty bad, right? Okay, I can't actually reach and touch you, but so that he wouldn't have had X-rays, MRIs, CT, I believe even. And the doctor he's seen there told him, okay, you need to see a chiropractor. And I said, okay, what's the problem? He said, there's no chiropractors in Anguilla. Okay, but he did say that there's a guy that flies in twice a year to see people, and and he says also his brother is the CEO of this hospital, and he showed me the clinic. It was beautiful. So the things we have here in America, sometimes we take for granted, right?
Yeah.
Even though he had the radiology, showed him the problems, but how do you fix it? He didn't have the ability to fix it. So
he identified it.
Yeah, identified it.
But he couldn't cure it.
Couldn't cure it.
Or take care of the issue.
Is America's healthcare system perfect? No. But are we far advanced of everyone else? Absolutely. So your original question was, how do we make a workplace safe? Comes from the top, right? So we know that we're talking about human capital. And if you're a truck driver, and I need Jimmy on that truck every day. Now, Jimmy is sick physically, is Jimmy sick mentally, Jimmy's sick psychologically. Guess what? Jimmy isn't going to perform to his highest ability. So,
well, Jimmy ain't going to work for me.
Well, guess what? But I'm going to take Jimmy, because guess what? Jimmy's been driving that big rig for years. So now, it's going to take time to train a new Jimmy, right? To get him comfortable behind that big rig, get him comfortable going up the mountains in Tennessee, whipping them curves in California, right? That takes time, so you lose your production. So what I'm going to do as a prudent boss, I'm going to say, listen, Jimmy, I can see your stress. I have Dr. Tight Pants. You're going to talk to him. You're not feeling great? You go get some therapy, massage, adjustment. Great. Now, if you got some internal things going, because if I take care of those early calls and get ahead of it, guess what? Jimmy's going to be in that truck smiling all the way down the road. But if Jimmy's got back pain, like, man, I hate this job. They got me on this road all day.
So say you have 130 truck drivers. Mm-hmm. So the other 129 saw what you did with Jimmy. Mm-hmm. So now you got to do it with 129.
I'm happy.
So it'd be cheaper financially, economically, and more benefit towards your bottom line if you say bye-bye to Jimmy.
Well,
because if you say bye-bye to Jimmy, because Jimmy can't figure it out mentally, physically, socially, and spiritually, then they will see that. And they'll make sure they take care of themselves. Remember, we're talking about healthy environment, healthy workplace.
Yeah.
So it'd be beneficial if Jimmy getting hit in all those areas to seek some sort of help.
Yeah, that's what we're going to provide them.
And then we need to know if the organization, because you're in a personal organization, where we might be big corporations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the big corporation has that particular area that they can go to.
Send them to, yeah.
Whereas it's going to cost you if you're taking care of Jimmy.
If it's someone that's a key person, and I value everyone, and I look at life, I look at my practice as I'm the coach, right? Because I was an athlete most of my life. Now, when I did something that wasn't the best, coach may scream at me in front of everyone, or he may pull me to the side. Hey, Hammer, what's going on? You okay? I see you did X, Y, and Z. Oh, yeah, coach, and he would talk to me and figure it out. So a good coach, you can be the strong fist. Sometimes you can be the soft hand. So you got to know which situation is appropriate. Now, if you keep giving him soft hand and strong fist, he's not getting it. And guess what? I'm going to have to sit Jimmy down and say, listen, Jimmy, I think this is the best time for us to go our separate ways. No hard feelings.
Or you tell Jimmy change his name.
That's so
that goes back to what we was talking about at the beginning. We said it starts at the top.
Yes.
So if leadership set that precedence with Jimmy, because if you don't handle Jimmy is in a truck that might be $90,000 or more. Mm-hmm. And then you're talking probably about thousands of dollars of worth product inside that truck. Mm-hmm. So am I going to trucks, Jimmy? You said in California, going around mountains and everything? No. Jimmy, bye-bye.
But how do you know that he has something going on? If you have that open door where Jimmy feels comfortable, he's like, man, if I go talk to Dr. Emmett, I know he's going to give me that Chicago boot. He's probably going to keep it in. Right? But I know Coach Pledge, he's like, come on, Jimmy. What's wrong, man?
I'm not going to kick Jimmy out right away. I'm going to work with Jimmy. See, Jimmy going to go through the coaching process.
Yeah.
So he'll go through a verbal coaching, then he go through a written coaching, then he go through that final coaching. So he's going to go through the steps where we can help him out. I'm just going to boot Jimmy.
Yeah, that's good.
So we'll know what Jimmy's problems is along the way. Mm-hmm. And usually with the truckers, they have their own little community. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they help each other.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And I think one thing that can't be overstated is that being proactive health-wise is always going to yield a higher return than being reactive after things happen. So you want to prevent things from happening. Like I always, talk to clients or physicians about being proactive in preventing and preserving function as opposed to trying to repair something as after it's broken. From an organizational standpoint, you have benefits, you have services available to the employees, so that way, before Jimmy gets too far down the line, that he has resources that he can turn to to keep him healthy and strong, as opposed to waiting for, to try to repair him after the fact.
And that's going to be dependent upon that leader.
Oh, yeah.
And the difference in the leader, for example, you two have athletic backgrounds.
Yes.
So you can see it before it happened, because you was trained to see things before it happened. You was on the basketball court, see the movement before it happened, see the cuts before it happened, see the picks before it happened. Yes. So you're trained to see before it happened. But then you got some leaders that wasn't trained to see before it happens.
Yes.
And those are ones that struggle with that healthy environment. Okay, given all the data by Chris Gatton, Elizabeth John, and Ron Thorestans, and practical experience that support working on health, companies' obsession with the P&L, the workplace P&L, have continued to puzzle. Some companies focus more on the P&L than they do on the health of the employee. Now understanding that the health of the employee is predicated upon the P&L. So, starting with you, Dr. Fred, please explain what you think is right as a leader, as a manager, to focus more on the workplace P&Ls meticulously than the health, the workplace health of the employee.
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. I think those two things they go together, right? Okay, if you're the manager, the owner, you're focused on profit, right? And some people are motivated differently. Some are motivated by time off, work-life balance, financial, so wherever that is. So having a healthy, happy workforce, guess what? They produce better, right?
Yes.
If you're driving them, you're screaming and yelling at them, most often that doesn't work. Fear doesn't work. I'm not motivated by fear. I actually turn off. It doesn't really. And I'm not motivated by praise either. It's weird. I'm kind of like hate more than I do praise.
So you're not motivated by fear? Let me call your mom.
Right. I harken back to when I was in college, undergrad, and I graduated. I was in between medicine and law, and so I took a year and a half break, and I worked in business banking. And I had a manager who had a degree from a smaller, less-known university, and I had an assistant manager who had, I think, 1 master or 2 masters at the time. And we had this manager. He was from a suburb of Chicago, and this guy, he rode me, man. I mean, I was a top producer, but he rode me. I mean, I would get deposits $250 and higher. We're high-fiving, boom, 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 and then he'll say, all right, great, what's in your pipeline? I'm like, do you see what this guy just brought in? But what he showed me is you never take your foot off the gas. Always keep the pipeline full. So although I hated it, now I self-drive myself. No one needs to wake me up. I go. So for staff, for employees, and everyone, I try to make it feel like a family because it's a smaller setting. It's not a hospital setting. So you get to intimately know people more than you probably want to most of the times. And you just try to support them in what they have going on, whether it's family stuff, extracurricular, and I always try to be a helping hand and supportive to a point.
So how do you get Jimmy to come on board?
Jimmy, well, before I hire anyone, it doesn't matter if I like them because I'm hardly going to see them. But what matters more, are they going to gel with the folks in the office, the staff, the patients? Is this going to be a good fit? Someone could look great on paper, but once they interact with folks, they can easily rub them the wrong way. So I would rather do without someone who's more qualified, but not a great team player. I take someone who's a better team player over the credentials.
So how do you feel about mentors?
Mentors are great.
In the workplace?
The mentors are great. I guess I had some historically, but honestly, I don't really communicate with them much often. I more so look at for my own reading books. Mostly every morning I start with either Joel Osteen, TDE, Les Brown, and I just feed my brain that way every morning. Before I leave the house, before I even brush my teeth, I start with them guys in the morning.
I remember once in mentoring, Mr. Pledge, I'm going to give you that same question. I told this young man, because he said, I can learn more about reading the books. I can learn more about taking classes. I can learn more about listening to other people. I told him you can learn more about your past, your experiences, what you've been through, where you came from. I said, that's your motivator there, because you're not going to want to go back to where you came from.
Sure.
I said, not so much the environment, but those feelings. I said, no one knows what you felt or what you went through.
Right.
We can say the same thing taking college classes. No one knows that. No one knows what you went through. No one knows the aggravation. No one knows how you felt getting put down from someone else. I had this conversation with my son. I said, so don't forget where you came from or your background.
Yeah.
Don't dwell in it. Use it as a motivator to succeed in the future.
Absolutely. 100%.
And then see if it connects with the books that you're reading, that the people that you're talking to. You got so many people out there talking, and that some don't connect to you, some do. And then you might be an individual, and I was talking to the other line brother named Mike, well, you should have wrote a book by now.
Oh, absolutely. He's full of knowledge.
So I'm talking about you.
Oh, me?
You should have written a book by
That's
now.
what my mom says all the time.
Because you're not. See, I told you I'm going to call her. Mr. Pledge, same question.
As far as the P&L,
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I think different people in organizations have different level of expertise. I think one thing that you've shown is that you kind of look at how an individual fits into the entire organization, how they fit. At some point, certain individuals hate the term, but become a bigger liability than others. And that at some point, that the company has to kind of look out for itself. So I think, you have somebody with your level of expertise that can look out of how things are working out for the entire organization. And then you have some people who might be a little bit more focused on the individual, just say an HR department or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that one thing that leaders and strong, healthy leaders, they can collaborate and say, okay, let's bring people with different levels of expertise and different aspects of the organization together and decide on what's best for the company as a whole. So I don't think there's one way to look at it, because a director might look at it different than an HR person, might look at it different than the person's manager, because all of them are trying to achieve different things. And I think that's why you have a healthy organization with a lot of different people that have different perspectives. So that way you get a healthy way that the company's moving forward. Mm-hmm. And I do think that, kind of to piggyback off of what Dr. Fred was saying, is that healthy employees are what lead to a profitable company. Yes. And so investing in health will be a great investment on being more profitable, but also preventing those losses by people showing up to work. I mean, you have employees that aren't healthy or just are mentally checked out. They're not showing up for work. And then, that creates a certain strain. You have employees that want to leave your organization because it's not healthy. Right. Employee turnover, as you probably know, is one of the biggest costs to any organization. Mm-hmm. So kind of being on the forefront and fortifying things on the front end and making sure that everything's in place will help the bottom line at the end of the day.
Yes. Now, you heard me good point. You heard me just mention to Dr. Fred that he should have written a book right now. I mean, his background is extensive. And when you just hear him talk about it and how he can just put it together, he can really educate and develop a lot of individuals just by this book. July 10th, 2024. I mentioned Dr. Fred and his book. When he get that book, he gonna do it. When he get that book, he gonna be right back here, and players gonna be here too. We're not gonna talk. We're gonna let him talk about that book. We're gonna promote that book.
That's
fair?
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. One of my patients for years, oh my God, she's British, Jamaican British, right? She has the most unique voice you'll ever hear. She coaches folks on how to do public speaking and all this sort of jazz. And so she's always like, when do you write the book? When? It's like, I just need time. So she gave me the outline, and guess what? I got more excuses than she has answers. But I'm going to do it. If you're listening, this is for you. I'm going to write that book, yeah?
Oh, my God, producer, see that? He in the right camera.
I'll be interested to hear what voice the voiceover is in, because it's going to be a different voice every chapter.
Oh, my God. I love voices. I was in Colombia, and a lady was giving a tour. And there was this funny statue of the original people of Colombia. He was really muscular, and he's posing like this leaf outfit on. I was like, that's my dad. She starts busting out, turning red. The whole tour stopped for 5 minutes. My friends were like, I know he's been doing this the whole trip. And then they were like, yeah, you got to pay him. She straightened up her face.
Increasing the stability of worker schedule. Dr. Fredrick talked about it a little bit, and so did Mr. Pledge. This is what many companies use just-in-time scheduling, especially the supply chain management. You have them call-offs, and then you got to have someone on call. You got to call them in, or you got the last person might have left, and you might have to call that person back again. And just-in-time scheduling to try to match labor to fluctuating demand. Nevertheless, erratic, unpredictable schedules made it hard for frontline workers to manage their personal lives and family responsibilities. Research finds a range of negative outcomes occur for workers who have this kind of erratic work schedule, including poor sleep, quality and greater emotional distress. Conversely, a study at Gap found that greater schedule stability could benefit both companies and employees. Increasing scheduling stability for workers lead to a 7% rise in the participating companies' medium sales and a 5% increase in labor productivity. The added stability also improves sleep quality and reduce stress among employees with children. Please elaborate upon that, Mr. Pledge.
I think that, especially after COVID, where companies were offering a lot of different options for the employees, work from home, hybrid, things of that nature, is that there now are more options that employees, especially employees that have a certain level of skill and experience, is that they can go other places and get the desired schedule that they want, to work with. As somebody who's come up, working in various, working hospitality, where you're working, overnights, where you're working nights and weekends, where you're working holidays. I'm somebody who comes to appreciate a normal 9 to 5 with the working schedule. But there are times where, if you can work overtime, if you can get holiday pay, to where those things are an incentive for certain employees. But I do think that people, from an employee standpoint, they want the power on their side, of being able to dictate, all right, when they want to work, and if they have an opportunity for overtime, and they kind of want to take that away from the employer. And I think, as you alluded to earlier, is that things have become a lot more employee friendly time after time after time. And so I think this is just another place to where they want to kind of control over the schedule, and when they'll do, because people have added more responsibilities with kids and things of that nature, and so they do kind of want control over when they'll be working, and to dictate how they'll work and how long. So
a lot of the issues with schedule from my working environment is comes from lack of knowledge towards the employee on the schedule. Upon hiring, you might tell them you might have to work till the job is done. But they're looking to finish in 8 hours, but the job's not done yet. Depending on the type of work. I'm talking supply chain management now. Like in peak season, they really don't understand what peak season is until you explain it to them. So they're looking for a 40-hour week, and they might be working 50, 60 hours. And they're not explaining that to their spouse or to or figuring out how to manage that with their kids.
Yes.
Or they might be this outstanding worker, that go-to person, that leader keep pulling in. And that person is so dedicated to that company and so respectful to that leader that they don't say no. And that jacks the schedule up for everybody. All right, elaborate, Dr. Williams. I know I said Berry.
All right. All right, so kind of just piggybacking here on Mr. Pledge. So I do know folks that work from home, and they love it, right? And to me, I would hate working from home. I do work from home technically, but it's not, no one's telling me to stay home, right? I just do it because I'm out of the office. But what I do realize is people enjoy the freedom of walking around in pajamas and talking on the headset. To me, I would go crazy working from home. Yeah. I probably wouldn't get much work done, to be honest. I'll be in a pool, shooting pool, or doing something that's not work related. But if that makes people happy, that's fantastic. But what I did notice, especially like with some of the Silicon Valley guys, during COVID, all these people are home. So you're talking not hundreds, but thousands of employees are at home, right? They have these huge facilities which take lights, water, and gas. With COVID, they were like, oh my God, look how much money we're saving. So after COVID ended, they said, look, guys, you're so great from working from home.
You're doing the business, right?
Right. Listen, we're going to buy you a laptop, Steve. Brad, you got a new one coming too. We'll pay for your Wi-Fi. Listen, you guys are amazing. No more traffic, and just stay home, buddy. And they sell that building. Even here locally, I see some of the lawyers I know here, they have built these huge offices, and they're empty because people are working from home. Now they're trying to rent out space in these huge buildings. So the world has changed, and that's life. Like, everything evolves, everything changes, right? Yeah. There used to be these huge department stores, L.S. Sears, Montgomery Ward, Penny's, and all these sort of things. What happened? Where did they go? You got to pay attention to the changing climate. Guess what? They didn't look at the weather report. Guess who did? Amazon did. Walmart did, right? But some people just thought they were so big. We don't have to adapt to this change. We're J.C. Penney's, right? Or whoever the company is, Radio Shack. There's so many examples of this, right? So you always had to be nimble.
They didn't, like you said, they didn't stay focused on innovation. Mm-hmm. Those companies that you mentioned that's prospered, they saw e-commerce happening. Mm-hmm. Walmart saw, because remember, you can go on Walmart and you order merchandise online, then pick it up at Walmart. Mm-hmm. Amazon emerged, I'd say a good 67% during COVID, because it was limited to how much they had to get that stuff to homes because everyone doing e-commerce.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they also had to get planes to go overseas because they had to get the products coming in from there.
Right.
Because the containers got lost over the waters, and a lot of product got lost, and you got those 6 months later. Jeez. So what you're saying is valid. It's very valid. And the work from home, no, I couldn't do that.
Me neither.
I couldn't do that.
You know, when you talked about Amazon, my mom tells stories of my grandfather. He was a Cherokee Mohawk Indian. And before the Depression, he was a very wealthy man. He owned the Ice and Coal House in Indianapolis.
Is that two different native?
Cherokee and Mohawk is two. So
I didn't think they mixed like that.
They apparently did, at least with Jesse James. They made it work. They made it work. But so he had an ice and coal house, and back in the day, before a refrigerator, how you actually cooled your food, you had to put a block of ice in there.
Yes.
Right? He provided that ice, and if you wanted to warm your house, you put coal. So that's what he provided for the city of Indianapolis. And so, anyways, long story short, the Depression. Well, before the Depression, my mom said he had a catalog from Sears. He would order everything, his robes, his Model T Fords, everything from the catalog. So Amazon, there's nothing new in it. So Amazon is doing what Sears did via catalog on the internet. Yeah. It's the same thing.
Yeah. That's a good example. Mm-hmm. Good example. Next, back pain. First of all, to get into back pain, I don't know if you knew Mr. Pledge, but Dr. Williams right now is suffering from back pain. I think he hurt his back a couple of days ago. And I thank you for showing up tonight. I know you're probably in pain as you sit there. But if anyone can put hands on you and heal you, you can heal yourself because you're a doctor.
I wish I could.
You're a chiropractor.
Hallelujah. It's cured. Didn't work. Like you can't tickle yourself either.
Back pain is a common problem among working adults. Mm-hmm. More than 1 in 4 working adults report current back pain. Some episodes of back pain may be precipitated by physical job demands. Mm-hmm. But both absence, work-related, and non-work-related episodes of pain can contribute to work abscess. And some workers may experience problems continuing or resuming normal job tasks. While most back pain is not medically serious, the experience of pain can be aversive and self-limiting. And back pain can lead to occupational challenges and disruption. Elaborate.
Okay,
Dr.
so being in a healing profession, health profession, right, is pretty ironic. It's funny now, but I went to the gym after work last Thursday, which I typically do after work. I go to the gym. And let me reverse. I had been out of the gym actively for a couple months for different reasons, but I was back in the gym, working my way back into it. So this particular day, I was doing the normal routine. Start off with the rack pull, which I love, my favorite full body. Then I go over to bent over rows. And I started with the weight I'd normally start with. Probably should have reduced the weights.
Coming from 2 months layoff.
Yeah, 2 months layoff, but you know, we're men and we're like, me don't need no weight. So I picked that 100-pounder up, go through it, and then on my second set, it felt like 2 pit bulls is bit in the back. So I try to be cool and fall off the table sideways. I said, all right, let me crawl over to the foam roller, try to roll my back.
It was people there?
Oh, yeah. But no, it was a holiday. What holiday just passed?
4th of July.
Yeah, it was 4th of July. Nobody was there hard, thank God.
Okay.
So I roll over to the, like a wet seal to the foam roller, try to roll my back, and I was like, oh, something isn't right. So I didn't even pick the weight up. I dropped the 100-pounder. I just went to my truck, walk of shame, and then I get home. I was like, man, I stopped for fast food because I knew I wasn't going to get up again that night. Mm-hmm. And I get in the bed, and then thinking I'm just gonna wear off. Wake up in the morning, it felt even worse. Like every movement hurt, like excruciating, like sending shocks to my body. I was like, oh my God. And this is a work day, so I'm trying to scramble, scheduling patients, trying to get coverage, calling doctors, say, hey, can you come in? Which I ended up doing, but it was very stressful on top of being in severe pain. So that pain lasted for, it's still there, but not as bad as it was. Like today and yesterday are the first days really I've been able to walk without feel like I'm going to die. I did get adjusted. I did get a massage, which helped out greatly. And I never had this sort of injury ever in my life. So it's pretty scary. Now I can relate to people that come in pain.
Yeah.
Because it's almost a desolate feeling. Like, will I be stuck with this pain for the rest of my life? 'Cause I see it every day. I'm not going to say I take it for granted, but I know I'm going to help them, right? But when it's you that's in pain, who's going to help me, right? So I searched and I went to different folks. I'm calling people. And for days, I literally was in bed. And it was so bad where you had to plan out your bathroom breaks. Like, do you really, really have to go? Because if you sit down and then have to get up, like, it's going to be trouble.
That's extreme.
This was the worst pain I've ever had. Outside of my tattoo, that was self-inflicted. This was the worst pain I've had. So thank God I'm a whole lot better. Because I did, I was sitting in my room looking out. I was like, what if you stuck like this the rest of your life? That did cross my mind. I was like, this is terrible. This is miserable.
See, that goes back to what I was saying about past experience. Only you as an individual know how far back in the past you're going to go. So you experience that pain. So from your experience, that pain, which is going to be a past because it's not present, it already happened.
Right.
I mean, you know how to work with others. Your viewpoint on that, Courtney?
As far as the back pain,
In the workplace.
As far as employees
Yes.
with back pain, to be honest, it's not something that I have a lot of experience with. With dealing with employees with back pain. So I have to defer to Dr. Fred on this one. So, yes.
Now, to prevent back pains in the workplace, I know in the work environment, we have, I'm going to see if Dr. Fred agree or disagree with this. We have what we call a 10-minute huddle. That means within that 10-minute, 2 minutes to 3 minutes is information gathering and the rest of it stretching.
That's good.
And we ask that they stretch beginning before they work, then they go on breaks, come back and stretch again, go on lunch, come back and stretch again.
Nice.
And before they leave, stretch again. These are the ones that's picking or doing replenishment or even loading the trucks.
Smart.
We also have training on proper lifting, your leg position and non-twisting and how far over the head and how far out to bring it, the product. One thing that we're going back and forth with, and this also reflects, I think, on Pharmaceu too, is that back brace. Is that back brace conclusive, beneficial, is one of the preventive measures for back injury in the workplace?
Preventable? I mean, you could have that thing tied up as tight as you want to tie it. But if you have...
Really?
Yeah, if you have things going on below the surface, I mean, you can wrap it around 3 times. But if you already have these things that's already predestined to, go out, and you're not addressing them, you can wrap it around with duct tape. It's still going to happen, right? Because the truth of the matter is, if you haven't taken care of your spine or your body for that matter, problems are going to happen. They just don't come from no problem that you have today started today. Everything takes time to develop, right? So having a back brace, if you have a weak core, yeah, it will help you, but it's never going to prevent an injury. It helps when you're injured to recover, absolutely. I've used one just recently, and I've used some pharmaceuticals as well. Conjunctively, everything works together, right? It's like a baseball team. You can be the greatest pitcher, but if your catcher can't catch, what good is it? So everybody has to work together.
So on a 100% scale, what percentage would you say the back brace is beneficial to the workplace?
Is really beneficial post-injury, right? Pre-injury, I mean, just because if you wear think about this, if you wear a back brace every day and you tie it up really tight, what are those muscles doing? They're relaxing. They're becoming weak. If you don't use it, you lose it. I don't know if you ever seen the old photos. I used to Google weird stuff. But the folks in Africa, I forget the country, but they would put these rings around their neck, right?
Yeah.
Stretch them out really tall like a giraffe. What would happen if they took those rings off?
It'll close up.
It'll close up, and guess what? Their head would do this.
Yeah.
Because the muscles are weak. Mm-hmm. So wear that back brace. Same idea. You wear that back brace, yeah, it's giving you support. But your core's supposed to give you support, right? So anything you do externally to your body, it's going to do less. Your body's not going to try to fight against what you're putting in. If you're taking insulin, your body's like, heck, we don't need to make that much insulin. That's just how the body is. It's like, hey, I'll take a break if you're going to give it to me. That's
So what percentage?
That need it, then it's going to help.
Yeah.
It's going to help those people that have bad health.
So what percentage?
Americans, all of them.
So 100%, you need that back brace in the workplace.
Yeah, no, it's going to help people because the truth of the matter is, America, we're fat, we're lazy, we're not active at all, right? Back in the day, people walked everywhere, they grew their own.
Not everybody fat and lazy.
Well,
I
good
think,
percentage.
America now, from pre-COVID to now, is more into the athletic workout.
A percentage of the population.
Whether it be cycling, now you got people out there doing 20 and 30 miles bicycling yourself
That's
as well.
That's a select
and
demographic.
Weightlifting and basketball, volleyball, they're more athletic now into that arena.
Yeah,
that's why they're saying that it's a longevity for age, for life versus death. If they said if you're in your 50s, it's like being in your 40s. Sure. You're in your 60s, like being in your 50s. Your 70s, like the ones that work out, that's active. Those are the ones also trying to watch their diet with all this, and also drink a lot of water and things of that nature.
All that plays a part. I think the bigger key of all that, even though a healthy lifestyle is going to be crucial, the advances in medicine is the reason that people are living longer, right? We didn't have these same health procedures available to people in the 20s and 30s. People used to do bloodletting to get rid of disease, and they would carve a hole in your chest to do a heart procedure. So technology has improved. So in turn,
is it technology that improved, or is it the fact that Americans actually decide to look at some of the WHO's medication over in Europe or in Mexico or things of that nature? Because they always have medication coming. They always said that the individual over in Europe sustained life longer than Americans.
True.
And they said two reasons why. One was the food culture in America, and number two, for pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
So is that the American finally is caught up in that area now? Or what do you think pharmaceutical?
I can speak from the pharmaceutical standpoint is that the FDA is a little bit more highly regulated in America than overseas in Europe.
Meaning?
To mean that a drug will come out in Europe and it's easier for that drug to get approved
gotcha.
to be distributed amongst the masses than America, where the FDA is going to be more stringent on what gets approved and what doesn't get approved.
But the WHO can override it? WHO, tell them what WHO is.
The World Health Organization. I'm not sure what kind of jurisdiction they have over the FDA, but I just know that the FDA is in place in America to, make sure that, to approve what it doesn't get approved. And it's not like a bunch of stuff gets disapproved. It's just a long process.
Right.
And, and there have to be a lot of studies and things involved for things to get approved. And overseas in Europe, medications get approved a little bit easier, so that way they become available to the masses earlier.
Now, feedback on Dr. Williams, he's talking about back brace.
Once again, I'm going to have to defer to him. Not my level of expertise.
So, but what's the number of distribution for back brace in the pharmaceutical arena?
Well, the word pharmaceutical means medication. So we're not necessarily, a back brace wouldn't fall into our arena of
it's more
of what we do. Yeah, so it's more of a device as opposed to a medication.
But that's not the same. They're not pretty much. I didn't think they were separated. The devices versus the actual medication, because you have over-counter drugs outside. You got the control behind the counter, and you got the devices all in the same area. So if you're going to a Walgreens or CVS or even a Walmart, you see all that stuff in the same areas, and the big old sign said Pharmaceu, pharmacy.
Yes, it's just that I'm not on that side.
You're not going to touch it. You're not going to touch it.
There's so, like he's getting it, there's so many aspects of medicine, right? You know, you have the pills, you know, you have devices, oxygen tables, beds. There's a plethora of different things, you know, like in, one thing I'd like to point out is if in America, we believe medicine is the key to health, right? Mm-hmm. We take more pills, more potions, more lotions than any country around, right? But are we the healthiest? No. Why? A lot of reasons, lifestyle, so forth, so on. I'm from Indianapolis, right?
The air.
Eli Lilly was one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies, right? Eli Lilly once said that a drug without a side effect is no drug at all, because every drug has a side effect.
You know, Jerome said the same thing in my neighborhood. And when he was lighting that joint up, he said, no drug at all.
Rick James said something similar.
Sciatica refers to pain that travels along the path of the sciatic nerve. The sciatic nerve travels from the buttocks and down each leg. Sciatica most often happens when a herniated disc or an overgrowth of bone puts pressure on the lumbar spine nerve roots. This happens upstream from the sciatic nerve. This causes inflammation, pain, and often some numbness in the affected leg. What is sciatic nerve?
Okay, very common. This is probably one of the most frequently asked questions via social media, telephone, in person.
Yes.
If anyone finds out I'm a chiropractor, if I'm at dinner, breakfast, oh my God, I have their whole rap sheet. All right, let's take a look at this. Put my eggs to the side, right? The sciatic nerve. So what the sciatic nerve is? So you have the brain. The brainstem goes to the foramen, comes down the spine, then it splits, it decusates into two nerves. Now that becomes a sciatic nerve, and it goes behind the glutes, in between the piriformis muscles. So why this nerve is often...
What is the glute?
The glute is three muscles which make up what's commonly known as the buttocks.
Okay.
Right? And it goes in between those muscles.
So if you had to put it in different languages, you said the buttocks, the booty, the derriere.
Yep.
Okay,
all of the culo, if you're in Espanol. Habla español. Shout out to Colombia and Puerto Rico. So the reason this muscle is that nerve is really irritating, it's the largest, biggest nerve in the body, right? And what do we do in America, like we're doing now? We're sitting, right? Yeah. And when you sit and guess what those muscles are doing? They're getting tight. Mm-hmm. What people like, they're lazy boys, they like their box suites. So all this sitting or driving is one of the worst things you can do for your body. So this is why those muscles often are inflamed and they tighten down on that muscle back in the day. Or some people probably still drive with a wallet in their pocket, sitting up like this. Police are they carry that big belt, so it puts a lot of strain on that area. So there's a lot of different reasons that mostly lifestyle related, right?
So I never thought about that. So that could be the reason why a lot of the military individuals that works at MPs or during time of war have back pain, sciatic pain, because they wear the belt and they have the weapon.
Absolutely.
And you got to sit down with that on too when you're in the vehicles.
Man, they need someone out there adjusting people in the field, dodging bullets. That's what they need. So they can fight freely with no pain.
I'm not even going to ask you about sciatica because you're going to tell me that's not your area.
Appreciate that.
But it could give you some muscle relaxer, right? Those are great.
Oh, we're going to get to that. Sciatica compares to back pain in that the back pain isn't exactly that. Located in the back and not in the leg, which is known as peripheral nerve pain and often called sciatica. How can I tell the difference between back pain and sciatica? Back pain, and Dr. Williams going to elaborate more. Back pain is often complicated by pain in the leg from one of the nerves being pushed in the back but supplying the leg. If there is discomfort in the lower back, central or unilateral, and this is accompanied by leg symptoms such as pain in the leg, numbness, pins, and needles, or weakness, then the origin of the symptoms is likely the lower back. Elaborate.
Okay, so back pain can come from a million different places. I mean,
you're talking about sciatica?
Yeah, so the sciatic nerve, all right, the sciatic nerve is going to be extension from the spine, right? you mentioned back pain.
Yeah, how did that differ?
How they differ. So you can have radiating pain to the back that's not from the back. It could be from a different organ that could refer pain to your back.
Really?
It's not necessarily always particularly right in the back, because people always say, oh, doc, the pain's right here. But the pain doesn't usually come from the site where the pain is. It's usually one level up. Mm-hmm. So Dr. House, he always said, patients always lie. So I typically don't, I listen, but I'm just going to do my exam anyway, right? Mm-hmm. You don't go to the auto shop and tell them what you think is wrong. You let them examine and fix it, right? So I examine them. So, and then how do you get the radiating pain? That's when the nerves are really, really inflamed. You can think about if you had a water hose, this is how I explain it. If you have a water hose and you step on it, what happens to the water? They say it stops, right? And then what happens to the grass and the plants if it doesn't get water over time? They will say it dies. Great. So the same thing happens in our body. If that nerve isn't getting a signal to those organs, cells, and tissues at 100%, what do you think happens to those end organs? They die, right? So how do you, they were like, doc, how do I know if I'm have nerve interference, right? How do I know if something's being cut off, if life is being cut off? I'll say, Jimmy, that's a great question. Now, do you know anyone that takes a pill for anything, right? Oh, yeah. My Uncle Steve takes something for high blood pressure or diabetes. I say, okay, when they prescribe that prescription, how long did they say, Uncle, to take that pill? Did they say take it for a week and your high blood pressure is fixed and your diabetes cured? No, they said take this pill for the rest of your life. If you stop taking it, guess what? You're going to get sick and die, right? I said, now I ask them, now, do you think this is how God made your body? To rip your parts out if you stick needles in your butt and you slowly crawl into your grave? Is this what you think God had for you?
Yeah, that's a little bit traumatic, isn't it?
Well, this gets the point across.
You scared the hell out of Jimmy.
No, listen. No, this because Jimmy kind of hard-headed, so I got to break it down. and Jimmy sit back in his chair. You know something? So you got to put it where people can understand it. So, Jimmy, listen, we're going to check everything. We'll make sure everything's flowing at 100%. Don't worry. But if you do have something that's out of place, we're going to find it, fix it, leave it alone. You can live a long life like God had for you. Otherwise, you can be like Uncle here, this person here. Like, we all know stories of people that were working out, eating great, healthy, eating salads, right? And then they go get checked, do a physical, and they're fantastic. But guess what? And they still end up dying early. Why? If they had the physical and the EKGs, all this stuff was good, but they never had their spine checked. And guess what? The spine controls everything. When you breathe, when you blink, when you hold your finger, when you look at me like that, your brain, your spine, your nervous system control everything.
I didn't know that.
In fact, when we're born, when your mom's egg and your dad's sperm come together, they divide. The first two systems that are made, can you guess? The brain and the spinal cord.
You know, that there is blowing my mind.
Mm-hmm.
A chiropractor is giving a scenario on reproductive system.
And guess what? Even more so. That's a great point you made there, Doc. They're so important that God said, you know what? I'm going to put bone all the way around these two systems because they're so important. The only two organs with bone totally encased in them is the nervous system, right? Mm-hmm. So it's crucial and critical that you have spinal health that you can last. Now, you can have muscles big as Hulk Hogan, but if you have nerve interference, guess what? It's not going to do you any good.
With that said, you was a chiropractor for one of the sport teams in Tampa, weren't you?
I don't sign up for any team, right? Which would be fantastic. Some people do it, and it's wonderful. I personally just like people to come to me, or I go to their house. Mm-hmm. I'm a lone wolf. I don't, like you guys know, I don't like people telling me what to do. So I never really want to go that route.
So if you did that means you underneath their control.
Essentially, yeah. Okay. And I don't think they could pay me enough, to be honest.
Courtney, talked about the nerve support supplement.
The nerve support supplement?
Yeah, that's pharmaceutical. No, you passed that.
Once again, not my level of expertise, especially follow up the way Dr. Fred just broke it down for us. That would be tough to follow. Talking about the reproductive system and everything. Like after that, I got nothing.
How important is that supplement?
You know what? If you have a deficiency in something, then I will say take it. But taking supplements or any kind of supplement without having a deficiency, just because you've seen a TikTok or commercial, and you start taking this, but your levels are fine, all your body's going to do is pee it out. So if you're going to throw money away, just give it to me.
Is that what they always say? Consult your physician before you start.
Before you start,
Before you start.
Do a full panel. See if you have any deficiencies. If you just want to willy-nilly throw money, I'll see my Cash App. That's fine.
The United States Bureau of Labor Statistics states that back injuries in the workplace account for nearly 20% of all injuries and illness. More than 1 million back injuries are sustained in the workplace each year in U.S.
Wow.
In 2021, musculoskeletal disorders involving the back made up 38.5% of all work-related musculoskeletal disorders. Back pain, not the sciatic nerve. Sciatic nerves only lasts like 2 weeks. It's the back pain that's it's killing the retention in a workplace. To go back to what Dr. Williams was saying, because you got some workplaces you're sitting down, office space is sitting down. You got some workplaces in construction, you're constantly twisting and moving. And then in the logistics, you're driving, you're constantly moving your legs. You're sitting in that seat, and then you get out and you're moving product. In the warehouse, you're constantly moving product and things of that nature. So, employee fitness. Employee fitness in the workplace can play a vital role in improving worker health and safety, resulting in a safer, healthier, and more productive work environment. From reducing stress and absenteeism to improving mental health and job satisfaction. The benefits of promoting fitness in the workplace are numerous. Workplace stress and depression are leading causes of absenteeism, particularly for employees who work in high-pressure business environment. However, working out raises heart rate, improves blood flow, and relieves stress. It also produces hormones such as norepinephrine, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah,
Adrenaline.
There you go. That help with proper brain functioning and enhance mood. Mr. Courtney, give me your interpretation of what I just said, employee fitness in the workplace.
Finally, I can add some substance to this podcast. But yes, this is something where organizations or businesses have a chance to add value on the front end of helping employees get health. And one thing I want to add again is that it's not just the physical health, but it's also the mental health.
Right.
It's making sure that those services are in place for employees as well. And, making sure that a place, whether it be an on-site gym or just giving or making sure that as part of the health plan that it's covered for employees to be members of gyms, making sure that all that does have a great return to the company. You have a healthy employee, which is going to help the bottom line because it's going to reduce the cost of healthcare plans that employer offers. So it's almost like they're offsetting one cost on the back end and doing it on the front end. Right. Then also, as I said, the mental clarity, the energy, the healthier employee or happier employee is going to be a more productive employee. So it really has a all-around benefit for both the employee and the employer. So it's really a way to be proactive and making sure that you produce positive results all around.
Good. Dr. Williams?
Yeah, that's fantastic. One thing I would note about fitness and health, I believe it's Sweden where they go a step further. They even allow mandatory, right? Middle of the day, they have a nap, like a 2-hour nap, like when you're in kindergarten.
Like siesta?
A couple hours, right? I'm like, what a forward-thinking idea, right? Because instead of us pretending we're working, sleeping on the job, just give us a break.
We do illegally.
Right.
Not illegally.
Right. Instead of just seeing the production dip around lunchtime, just give them a nap. I think it's great, but I don't think that's ever going to happen here. But that's why I like to add.
Well, I want to thank everyone for listening in. We had a good time here talking about the health in the workplace, the healthy workplace. We could have hit certain areas of it, but I just want to stay right there on that surface with that topic with two individuals that have an impact upon that sort of environment. All right, Mr. Williams, what do you want to say to my guests going out?
I just want to, I don't know if you mentioned earlier, how can the people that's listening today who's dying to know, how can they get their autographed signed copy of this book? How can they get that book?
Well, once they purchase the book and communicate with me, I'll sign it. Or I might, depending on my producer, I talk to my producer, we might do a book signing.
Yeah, that would be great.
But now I just want you to get that book.
Do you have a website where they can go?
My producer will put all that up at the end.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
You got
But
people for that.
All right.
So if they want to communicate with a chiropractor, don't be pushing it off on me. How they come communicate with you?
Listen, if you're in a wreck and need a check, don't waste time. Call 1-844 Florida Spine. One call, that's all. 24/7 auto accident helpline. I'm one call away.
This man does his own advertisement. Mr. Courtney, instead of the guest going out.
Just kind of stay on top of everything. It's always better to be preventative as opposed to on the front end, as opposed to on the back end. So just make sure you stay on top of everything. It's funny that, three brothers are on this podcast, and, we kind of, the stereotype is that we don't, go to the doctor, we don't get checked out and things of that nature. And so even if you are that person that does normally go and get your preventative, get checked out and things like that, make sure that you're, letting other people know and helping them be accountable for their health as well, because we all want to grow old and enjoy life together. And, we've lost, all of us lost people far too early. So we want to make sure that we are on the preventive end and making sure that we're getting ahead of things and not being reactive.
Good. All right. I'm going to say it one more time going out. Purchase my book, Leaders Become Leadership. Volume 1 is English. Volume 2 is Spanish. And my last departing remarks. Are you ready? Subscribe to me. Subscribe. Thank you. I appreciate you. Until we meet again, goodbye.